everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way, and this week we're going back to an earlier project series. This is project series 9, and it's actually called the Tuscan Village. It shows, the sample shows the little Tuscan village with the white structures and the red roofs, but we can change that and go with something more like this. This is still an Italian village, but it's more of a coastal village, and I'm sure you recognize this look with the bright colored structures, little houses, so cute and really fun to do this. So I'm going to show you how to put a little different spin on this set and show you how to put this together. And we actually don't need very many sets at all. So we're going to use this one, of course, the Watercolor Series 9. This is set 2 and it has the village, the complete village here. We're also going to use the cliff. The cliff is from Easy Project B. And then in the foliage set, the new one, the tiny, tiny little foliage right here. So just 3 stamps is going to give us this really cute Italian coastal village, this really cute look here. Okay, so let's get going. So we're going to start out by stamping the basic image, and that would be the little village. So we're going to ink that in 2 colors. We're going to start with the number 86 violet, and we're just going to ink this whole thing up here. All the little structures, and then we're going to stamp it off. So we're going to stamp this off. We're kind of looking for a little gray, more of a gray tone, and we're going to get that by using 2 colors. So we're going to stamp that off on a separate piece of paper, and then we're going to ink it again in another color, and this would be the sepia. So number 45 sepia. This is sort of our go-to color. We use this a lot. And we're going to ink that again. And we're not going to stamp this too hard. We're going to keep this pretty light, and you want to stamp it up towards the top of your paper because we're going to add some water and a cliff in here. So just stamp that pretty lightly, just like that. Make sure you get a good even pressure. Okay, and you can see this is kind of shaped like a little C, and in our sample we have a lot more structures in here. So we're going to tuck a few more little houses in here. And it's so easy to do because we are using a stamp and we can ink just the parts of it that we want. So let's clean this off. You can use your thumb or you can use a baby wipe or a wet cloth. Just clean that off. I usually use my thumb. And we're going to use just these 4 little structures right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just these. And we're going to ink those the same way as we did the basic image. So that would be the number 86. And just ink that clear over just like this. And then we're going to stamp that off as well. So stamp that off on another piece of paper. And then we're going to ink that again with the sepia. And just bring that right over like that. Now we're going to use the positioner because we want to make sure we get that tucked into the right place. So I'm going to line it up just like this and stamp that right in the corner. And now I'm going to be able to see exactly where to tuck that in. And it should fit. You see the little chimney right here? That should fit right underneath this little window. And we can tuck that right in there just like that. Place the positioner, the little L square back. And if you just huff on that, you really don't have to re-ink it. And there we go. We've got our little structure tucked in there. So let's go ahead and do a couple more down in here. So we want to kind of drop this down and add a couple more. So we're just going to use these 2 little houses right here. So let's clean this off again. And we're going to use our positioner again just to make sure. And let's ink these the exact same way. So in the 86 first, just these 2 on the bottom. And you can actually carry this over as far as you want. You can make a much bigger little painting by using more of these little houses, and just use a positioner and just place them here and there all over the place. It's really fun. So let's stamp that off now. And we're going to ink it with the sepia. Just these 2 on the bottom. And then we're going to use the positioner again and make sure that we get it in the right place. Just in here like that. And I'm going to tuck them right back down in here, just a little bit lower. And actually the top of this little structure is going to be even with this. A little hard to see since I stamped that right over the top of the other image. but we can still see. So in here just like that, huff on it a little bit and you don't have to re-ink it. And just get a good even pressure in there just like that. And that looks really good. And you can see you can just keep adding these little structures, keep going over and just do as many as you want to do. Okay, so the first step will be to pull the color out of the lines. That's always the first step. And so we've got our water and we're just going to dip the brush, pinch it off, and we're going to start by pulling the color out of the lines. And I usually start where it's going to be the darkest. So that would be under the eaves, under all these little structures, and we're going to add a lot more color to it too. So this is just the first step. And just kind of work your way around to all these little buildings. So fun. And remember with these little paintings, it's just the idea of things. I know I say that a lot, but it really is. You're just showing the idea of it. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It's also what I love about it. It's very forgiving. So we're going to choose a side that has the light, and that would be either this side of the building or this side of the building. And you can just choose whichever way that you want to do it. I sort of made the light coming this direction, but like I said, you can make it any way you want. So we're going to make this side then a little darker. And we can just kind of drag this color down a little bit. So all of these structures here are going to be a little darker on this side. And I'm just kind of pulling that color down. Just keep it light. And I don't have very much water on my brush at all. So you want to always be sure to dip that brush in water and pinch it off. Make sure you pinch it off because these lines are so small that you can erase them really, really easily just by getting too much water on here. So let's add now, let's pull this color out of the roofs and add a little more color up in here. So we're going to do that by adding some sepia to the palette, to our palette. And we're going to add another color to it. We're going to add some of this number 29 Prussian blue, and we're going to use this color in our little composition here. And this is a really common color. You see this a lot in these little coastal towns, these bright, bright blues, bright yellows, bright oranges. And so we're going to keep these colors really warm. And we're going to mix this together. This is going to give us a really nice roof color. So if you're a little unsure about putting color on, start with it really light, and that just means a little more water. Keep the color away from the top. You know, as you're brushing this over, keep it away from the top of the roof. Make sure that you allow that light to jump down on that roof. You never want to color anything in solid. You can see this little roof here. I left this little highlight right in the center. That's what gives us this, this corner right here. If we color this all in solid, even in this tiny little image, it's going to be flat. So we really want to avoid that. So every time you see something like this, make sure you leave that little highlight in there. And you can see how that brings that corner around. Even in the littlest images like this, it really makes a difference. It really does. The little details really matter. And when you look at your image overall, that's what makes it look so good, is when you do these little details. And it doesn't take much. This is still a quick and easy project. So a little more sepia here. And it's okay if all of these roofs aren't the same color. It's actually better. So don't worry about mixing color and making sure you have enough for all of these. Don't worry about that. And leave that top, that little highlight on the tops of the roof. It's always better not to color things in solid. Even if you're not exactly sure where the light's coming from, it's just better to leave it, leave some white spaces. You're going to love it better overall. Okay, so we've got our color in here, and that looks pretty good. We can always come back in and add more color. That's easy to do. All right. Starting to shape up here. Don't forget the little chimneys. These are really important. Get these little guys in here. All right, now we're going to take that number 29 Prussian blue. So it looks very similar to African violet. So don't get the two of them mixed up. I do this all the time. Grab the wrong one. So make sure you're checking the number. This is Prussian blue, and it's a very warm color. So we're going to start out now by coloring these little windows in. And this kind of thing, you don't need to stress about. In fact, it's better that you don't make these little windows perfectly square. It's going to be a lot more natural looking. And actually that's a good thing because it just makes it so that you can go way faster if you don't have to color these all in perfect, which I also love. And don't be afraid to make a few more. If you want to make a few more little windows like this, you can. Especially if we've stamped this over again, you know, like this little section here, this little 4 section is the same as this, add a few more windows. That'll change the look of it because we don't want it to look like a stamp. Or leave a few windows off when you're inking it. It's really, really easy to change. Oops, I can see I forgot a roof there, so I'll have to go back to that. So just kind of work your way around. Get all these little windows. These little structures have lots of windows. And don't be afraid to come back under the eaves. The eaves are going to be really dark. So don't be afraid to come back in here. This is another reason why I am such a fan of Marvy and these Lapum markers, because you can see how tiny that little point is, and it's always wet. As long as the brush marker is wet, the fine tip is. So I just love that about them. Okay, let me grab that other roof here. Finish this off like so. And I think we're ready to move on to the next step. And that would be to add our little cliff in here. All right, so you can also change this too. So I'm going to show you how to add the cliff in here, but you have so much freedom and liberty to do different things with this. Really play around with it because it is fun. And there's a lot of different options that you can use. So this is the cliff, looks like this, and I've got it onto my block. So I'm of course going to use the positioner because I don't want to guess on this at all. And we're going to ink it in 2 colors. So this area here, which is the face of the cliff, that's going to be sepia. And this little line right here, the little grass line, that's going to be green. So I'm just going to use the number 15. And we don't really need to get all of these rocks here. I'm just going to go down to this area because I kind of want to make this cliff a little taller. So I'm not getting those 2 rocks at the very bottom. So I used 2 colors on that, and let's get the positioner now and stamp this right into the corner. Actually, let's move it over here a little bit. That'll make it easier. So let's put it in here like that. And so now we can position that little cliff. And it should just tuck right inside here. So that looks pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and stamp that in. So we're going to ink it again. Remember 2 colors. So sepia. And leave these 2 rocks down here off. This doesn't need to be very dark. This is our focal point where these little houses are, so we don't want to make this too dark. Remember, this is just the idea of the cliff and the water and the little structures. So this can be very light. So we're tucking it in just like that. That looks good. And we don't really need to do a lot more here. We're kind of fading the image off to the left, so we can kind of leave this alone over here. You can, if you want to bring this over and make more little structures, you can bring this cliff over as well. Easy to do. All right, let's go ahead and pull the color out of the lines. On this one, just drag the color down like this. Make sure you don't get too much water. And just drag this color down. Leave a highlight on top of the rocks. And we can bring some of this color over just like that. So fun. And pull this green up to the front of these structures. And you can see how that just changed our whole image. adding this on here. This little cliff is really fun because you can use it with all kinds of structures. All right, so let's go on now and add some color to our little buildings. We're going to do that on our palette, of course, because we don't ever want to color direct to paper. We're going to start out probably with our lighter colors. So this is a number 43 yellow. This is a number 88 terracotta. So some oranges. This is a number 6 brown. And then a really bright. This is number 89 persimmon. Love this color. And our number 29 Prussian blue. So we've got our really bright colors here, and let's start out by putting some of this color in. So start out with the lighter ones. That's always the easiest. Clean your brush off really good first if you're going to the yellow. So clean that off and take some of this color and just put it in. I start with the darkest first. So you can just randomly put this color in. Just pick and choose. There's no set way to do this unless you're trying to copy a village that you've seen. You can just add the color in however you want to. Just a little bit here and there. Just pick and choose. So this is the darkest side. And then let's come back in here and hit it again. And don't worry if you get a little bit of this blue in here, because we're going to put some more shadow color in anyway. So don't worry about that. And then we're going to make this over here very light. So this section on the front is going to be the lightest. And when you get into the shadow area, you can mix a little of this brown. You can see how that darkens it up. That's the number 6 brown, and I just put a little bit more of it into the yellow. You can see how that changed that shadow. So clean that off. Let's go on to the next color. How about some orange? It's very cute here. And this is a little darker color, so I did start on the lighter side, but we can always make that darker over here too. There's not really a right and wrong way of doing it. There really isn't. It's very fun and really, really relaxing, because it's kind of all, the dimensions and the sizes and everything are kind of all worked out for you, so you just have to put it together, kind of like a puzzle. And there's lots and lots of ways that you can do that. So fun. How about one more over here? Another orange. You can see I'm mixing color in here a little bit. That's okay. Don't worry that these are all not the same. So let's add some bright red into here. This is that persimmon. You can see how that just pops the color. And it doesn't take much water at all to do these. Just a little bit. Let's pick another color. How about some more of this pink? You can see I'm just kind of mixing a little bit as I go. Like I said, there's not really any specific way of doing it. Just however you want to. Okay, so let's add some blue in here now. So let's get some of this. Oops, that's not. You can see what I mean by getting these two colors mixed up. That is African violet, and we want Prussian blue, and you can see the difference here. But the caps are very similar. In fact, they look identical. So this is the white. These are little white structures, and they're going to have a shadow. That will be blue. So we're going to color the dark side on the white structures. We're going to color it in this blue. And like I said, it doesn't matter that you get a little of this color from the windows. That's okay. And just keep adding the color in here as you go. And even though we use the same stamp, you can see how different it looks just by changing the color. So never worry about that. You can add a little blue to the front also. These little structures. Adding color is really fun to do. You can't be scared of this. Don't be scared to add color. And the more passes that you make, the darker it gets. Okay, I think I'm going to add a little more yellow in here. Just brighten this up a little bit. These little houses are so bright. They're just really, really cute. Kind of known for that, the little bright buildings, yellows and reds and even pinks. All right, that looks pretty good. I think we've got our little structures in here. We can always come back and add more. So if you like that really saturated color and you like these really dark, vibrant colors, you can come back in and add more. It's always better to start out light and then just come back to it. All right, let's go on to the next step, and that would be to add our little foliages in here. So these hillsides do have a lot of foliage and trees tucked in here, so we're going to use this really tiny little foliage, this one right here. This is from the new foliage set. I really, really like this little guy because it works so well for things just like this. Remember, you're going to stamp it in here a bunch of times. And these little structures that are kind of coming down off of the cliff, we're going to add some foliage in here in front of them. Oh, we can add some back in here. And back in here. And up here, we want to give the idea that this is continuing up. So let's tuck some of this foliage in here as well. And we don't have to do a lot. Remember, this is still the idea of things. So we don't have to do a ton. We're just giving the idea of it. So let's add our water now. And just tap it. Just dab. This doesn't take a lot because these are tiny little foliages. So this doesn't take a lot. And just dab. Remember, you're just dabbing. Don't be afraid to mix these colors together. That's okay. The more that you do these projects, the bolder you'll get. The less afraid you'll be to mix colors and try new things. And that's kind of the point of the videos too, is to give you courage to try some of these things. Some of them look really complicated when you look at them and they're finished and you think, I could never do that. But you really can, because the whole process is really, really simple. And if you break it down into these simple little steps, it's not scary at all. Okay, let's add some sky in here now. And we're going to use that same Prussian blue. So this is that same light color. And we're just going to really, really water this down and just kind of brush this in. This is a blue, blue sky. Warm, warm colors. And it doesn't have, you don't have to color it in solid, just the idea of it. And just up in here like this. If it gets too dark, just wash it out. Just dip your brush in water and just kind of wash it out. Easy to do. All right, so let's get our water in. So we're going to do the same. We're going to use the same color. This is not the focal point. The water is not the focal point. This up here is. So this doesn't need to be bold and dark and continue all the way over. We're just going to do the idea of it. So what you want to remember when you're doing water is start out with a line straight. So straight line, straight brush strokes, and just come around like this. And that's really all we have to do. You can come back in a little darker, but like I said, this is not our focal area, so we don't have to do a lot with this water. We can leave it just like that. And look it over, see if there's anything else that you want to put on here. I really don't think there's a lot more to do. We want this to look like it's fading over to the left, so we don't want to add a lot in here, but you certainly can add more little structures. Try that. Try adding a few more in here and really changing the look of it some more. Or change the color of these little structures. You can make them all white. That's really cute too. But you have a lot of versatility with this stamp. So sign and date, that's always our last step. Sign it and date it. Put it on a card and put it in a frame and give it away to somebody that you care about. You will really, really make their day. They will love it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.